Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of To The Point. I'm Karim Gamaluddin, and I'll be filling in for my dear colleague Dina Osman. And dear viewers, today's episode we're going to be talking about the scene that took place in the United States at the Capitol Hill following a speech by President Donald Trump, and then worldwide condemnations have poured in for the chaotic scene that took place at the Capitol Hill, and we have different ideas, and we have different points of view to talk about and to listen from our guests here in the studio, or either joining us from Egypt or abroad via Skype or phone to know more about this scene and the U.S. Politics that has been witnessing fluid and fast developments as President-elect Joe Biden is about to be officially inaugurated as the U.S. President. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mrs. Irene Girgis-Safwat, and she's a assistant researcher at the European North African Center for Research. A very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to be with you. Good afternoon to the audience.
Thank you so much, Irene. And dear viewers, speaking about the scene that took place in the outside the U.S. Or inside, actually, the Capitol Hall at the U.S. Senate, we have prepared a detailed report about this, about the scene that happened at the Capitol Hall at the U.S. Senate as President-elect Joe Biden has been officially announced by the Senate as the U.S. President. That was interrupted by the Trump supporters, and let's take a look at this report. The American scenes that are outside the scope of the known and the familiar seem closer to that. And instead of trying to gather the fabric of the nation and join its wings wisely and prudently at the time of the ordeal, events seem to go on an irreversible path that leads the country and the people in the paths of the unknown, no doubt. There is no longer an absolutely right party and another is mistaken until the end of the road. And the one who looks at what is happening by the American political leadership is almost certain that the moments of prudence and wisdom have been absent from everyone, and that the art of politics has disappeared, and a kind of political intrigue has replaced it. In major countries such as the United States of America, the beginning is from President Donald Trump's directives to his supporters and his request to them to go to the U.S. Congress to express their anger, realizing or not realizing that hot heads are not indicative of rationality or good behavior, and for this it was considered especially from the Democratic side. Indeed, among many Republicans, a reckless act that led to what was known as the congressional invasion, which is a confusing event for American democracy whose impact will remain deep and a deep scar on the American body for many decades, especially since this is the first time since 1812 when British soldiers attacked Congress in its old form.
There's a guy like dying over there. They're trying to hold him up.
And that was a report that we have prepared to the point to shed light on the scene and all the details that has happened in the U.S. Politics, and also the scene that has shocked many that took place in the U.S. Senate. So my first question, Mrs. Irene, if you can tell us about the future, the political future of Donald Trump. Has it literally ended by the chaos that took place at the Capitol Hill?
Actually, the political future of Donald Trump wouldn't be hurt at all unless he is impeached. The Democrats are trying to punish Donald Trump before the transitional period ends. and they are trying to rapidly impeach him. But as long as there is no legal action against him, his political future wouldn't be hurt at all. And by the way, if he decides, he will be able to run for the next presidential election.
Yes. Also, Mrs. Irene, speaking about the political scene in the United States, what about what will happen next after the chaos that we have all seen and witnessed at the Capitol Hall?
The United States now is witnessing a real political instability, and the political system is negatively affected. There is a division between the American peoples, and there is a war between the two mega parties of the US, which are the Democrats and the Republicans. There is also a war between the two mega parties of the US, so the future of the American scene is not clear yet, as it depends on how Biden will manage the crisis and instabilities in the America, and the policies and approaches he will adopt to solve the problems in the US, including his efforts to solve the divisions in the American society. And it is there is also important note here, the political future of United States is also depend on how John Biden will be able to make a balance between safe democracy in the United States and implementing actions and policies to stop the acts of violence by Trump supporters.
Yes. Mrs. Irene, you have spoken about the divisions and polarization. So do you think that this will come to an end soon? The polarization between the Egyptian people and what we have seen in recent days?
It will take many long time. It can be achieved. It is not impossible, but it is difficult to be achieved on the short term, but it can be achieved on the long term. John Biden focused in his speeches on the importance of unify the people, not dividing them, but this goal and task is extremely difficult now, and it will take from him a long time to be able to accomplish this task.
Also, in your opinion, as an expert in the American affairs, how do you think that the chaotic scene that we have witnessed will have its impact on or repercussions or ramifications on the U.S. democracy?
Of course, the image of U.S. democracy shaken. The United States now, after the demonstrations at Capitol and the demonstrations by Trump supporters, will find it harder to advocate for democracy and rule of law, and the image of United States on the world stage is discredited by the demonstrations against the results of the United States elections. And these acts of violence by Trump supporters of course undercut the image Washington has long projected as a champion of democracy. So American administration all the time focused on expressing and branding itself as a democratic country and it has exceptional values in democracy, but on the ground and the acts of violence show us the opposite.
Yes. Irene, allow us to include a very important voice to this very fruitful discussion. We're most delighted to be joined by His Excellency Ambassador Mohammed Al-Arabi, a former foreign minister, to shed more light on this topic. Your Excellency, do you have my voice?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Your Excellency, well, first of all, we'd like to listen or to have some insights from you about the chaotic scene that took place at the U.S. Senate after U.S. President Donald Trump has urged his supporters to torch the hall.
I think the whole world, was shocked by this scene. Nobody was, under the impression that we can see this kind of incidents in Washington, D.C. And in front of the Capitol Hill, where we always think this is, the cradle of the democracy in the world. But let me tell you that I am sure and confident that the American system will, act very quickly in order to adjust, the image again and trying to overcome all these hurdles and this chaotic, situation which we saw on the TV for many days or even for many hours, actually. I think the United States is trying now to improve the image again and trying to put everything in order. And I'm sure, this American system can adjust itself in a very quick way. And I don't think that the American people will accept, this kind of situation. But on the contrary, they will try to focus on how they can, rebuild the image and trying to prove that they are, yes, the cradle of democracy in the world.
Mr. Ambassador, do you think that there has been the international community is there's fear that Donald Trump is dragging the U.S. to chaos, and do you think that what has happened has caused a threat to the U.S. National security?
Yes, but I think he's at the end of his term in the presidency in the White House, and I think what happened will put him under the pressure to try to be more prudent and rational at the last few days. So I don't see him as he will commit any kind of action which will occur more difficulties for the American administration. But on the contrary, I think he will be under the pressure of everybody, even from his party, in order to behave well and try to be president of the United States again.
Mr. Ambassador, we'd like to know your insight on the appointment of William Burns as the potential or the new CIA director. How do you see this move, and what are you expecting when he takes office?
Well, I think most of us, we know him personally. We dealt with him for many years in different capacities. And he knows Egypt very well also, and the Middle East. So I guess this appointment maybe will be a good sign that the American administration will be more focused on the Middle East. But the CIA or they are not, I would say, planning policies in the United States. There is different, forums or organs could, be more effective than that. But at least the CIA, they are always, taking care of the terrorist groups in the Middle East and security. So I think we will have more cooperation with this organization, and they will be more focused on the Middle East. And I am sure that they will be more forthcoming in the Palestinian question, which I think should be on the top of the priority of the region and also the United States.
Final question, Ambassador, before we let you go. The inaugural ceremony on the 20th of January, the whole world is having its fingers crossed on this event. Do you expect a smooth transition of power from Donald Trump to Joe Biden?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, I think it would be very smooth and peaceful. Maybe Mr. Trump himself will not attend, this ceremony, and this will be maybe the first time that the American president, let us say the outgoing American president, will not attend this kind of ceremony. But anyway, he is a little bit, a man of unexpected action. So he might attend, but so far I think he declared that he will not attend the ceremony, and this will be a little bit, odd in the American history.
Ambassador Mohammed Arabi, former foreign minister, we really appreciate your insight and thank you so much for joining us on To The Point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to you, Irene. You have also spoke about the state of polarization or division that is on the American street as we speak. Do you believe that President-elect Joe Biden will be able to overcome this state of, or this very hard state of polarization and will succeed in bringing the American people all together once again?
Okay, although Joe Biden shown through his speeches that he will focus on solving the U.S. problems and address the divisions in the American society in the light of the existence of many supporters for Donald Trump who are not satisfied with the U.S. elections, the results of the U.S. elections. And in the light of the existence of also division between the American political parties. Joe Biden seemed to focus on this point. But this task is extremely difficult and not easy at all for him. Because the supporters of Donald Trump are more than 70 million people, and they are representing a big part of the American society, and they are also attracting to his policies and personality. In addition, it's also difficult because the policies and actions that Donald Trump had approved wouldn't end easily. But it will take many time from Joe Biden to be able to end these policies. So Joe Biden will be able to solve the divisions and unify the people, but after a long time, so it is not impossible, but need great efforts from him and from the Democratic Party.
So in your opinion, do you think that Donald Trump will be impeached for a second time?
Okay, we will wait and see if the Democrats are able to impeach him or not, but in my opinion, they will not be able to impeach him because he's still in office until 20th of January. He's still in office, and he had a great team of lawyers, so they cannot have a legal action against him.
I also like to know your opinion about the appointment of the CIA director, the potential director that is going to be appointed by Joe Biden, William Burns, a former diplomat that was working as an ambassador to Jordan. He speaks very good Arabic, he speaks Russian. What do you think about that for the policy of the U.S. towards the Middle East?
Okay, Joe Biden will adopt a more soft approach towards the Middle East, including Iran and the Israel and Palestinian conflict. So the agenda of Joe Biden is to be more softer than Donald Trump.
Yes. So do you think that there is like winds of change coming to the United States, both internal and foreign policy?
Okay. Until now, there is no complete change in the American society. We cannot say that there is a complete change, but we can say that there are more awareness among the American people, especially after the death of George Floyd. American people become more aware of issues such as racism, equality and poverty issues, but the demonstrations at Congress and the assault at Congress has slowed down these changes. It is clear that apparently the civil rights bill is need to be revised again and to better implemented by the American people as it should be. Yes. On the international level, it will be more difficult for Joe Biden to make a significant change on the international sphere, because American foreign policy draw lines that are not changed by changing the presidents. So these lines are permanent and need time to be changed. In addition, the policies of Trump, that he has been approved in his relations with other countries, will need time to be end, and it wouldn't end easily. So it will be difficult for Joe Biden to make a significant changes on the international sphere.
Yes, Irina, we're also having another voice in our discussion, Mr. Ahmed Muharib, journalist and who's an expert in the American affairs, to tell us more about his insight. Mr. Ahmed, joining us from the United States, of course. Do you have my voice, Mr. Ahmed?
Yes, please, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Ahmed, I would like to know from you, as the inaugural ceremony is just around the corner, scheduled for the 20th of January, what do you think would be or would come on top of the agenda of Joe Biden for the first 100 days, or what should be his priorities?
Actually, we are unexpected receive of what's happening for the last 1 week. Today was happened in front of the Congress. That for the first time in the life of the American democracy is happening. What is facing the elected president Joe Biden for the next 100 days of his at the White House, it's going to be locally and internationally. Locally, he has two very important issues. One of them, he mentioned himself, and he talked about how he can deal with the situation of coronavirus. You have 360 million of American citizens. They would like to cover all areas of the state. Secondly, which is more important than that, is the division or the polarization situation that happened in the American society. Now it has to please another 75 million of Trump followers, where he cannot deny that, because at the election time he said, I will work for the people, they vote for me, and the people, the American people, they vote for the others. So I think that's the main two topics he will take in his first 100 days, and I'm sure with his very huge experience, 45 years of political experience, and his elected team, I wish him all the best, and I do so.
Mr. Muharib, the scene that took place on the 6th of January, do you think that it was a real blow to the U.S. democracy and politics?
To a certain extent, it is true. That's something unexpected, because what happened for the last 12 years, we have got for the first time of the American diplomacy a president who came from a business background. Usually, the American president used to be either from a political background or military background, and both they have to have a deep experience in dealing with international issues. For the first time, we face a very unique situation that a president is dealing with the White House as if it's a company, and they have to look for the success and the failure. That's why there is a lot of irritation around the world, plus the interfere of the American citizenship policy as well. I'm sure that 4 years, it was a history of American life. But with the democracy of the American people they believe in, that they will come over and they will cover this exactly at the time of 20th January of the 4th.
Yes. Also, Mr. Muharib, do you believe that Biden, and as a close follower of the U.S. Internal affairs, do you think that Biden will have a more tactful way to deal with or to fight or curb the spread of COVID-19, which has claimed thousands of lives in the U.S.?
Actually, what was made the failure of the President Trump, mainly he was attacked because he and his team was not exactly up to the standard of dealing with the COVID-19. Because I think all the intelligence and the report reached to his office by late December 2019 or January 2020 was giving him the impression that there is something serious that is going to attack the country. He took the matter not in a serious way. And that's why a big number of cases and big number of deaths as well, even if it does not happen to the China, which is the main country the spread of the virus came from. So I think Mr. Biden is giving a very good attention to be having a priority of dealing with that local issue. Because if this local issue will be the successful point of Mr. Biden, that means that the economy will be in a better position and then all other things can be carried on.
Yes, Mr. Muharib, you're wrapping, as we're wrapping up, your closing remarks.
Come again, please.
I was saying your closing remarks as we're wrapping up.
Yes, I guess so, yes. Yes.
Yes, so that was Mr. Ahmed Muharib, journalist from the United States, specialized in the U.S. affairs. And back to our guest here in the studio, Mrs. Irene, also allow me to ask you about the future of Biden's four-year tenure in the midst of all the challenges that are posed in front of him, both internally and externally.
Joe Biden task as the next president of the United States is not easy at all. He will face, of course, he will face many challenges and pressures. He will take time to be able to make significant changes in the international sphere and to reverse the Trump policies and actions. And he will also take time and need efforts to be able to bring again the harmony between the American people and the competition, the good competition between the American parties. So he will face many challenges, but it depends all on his efforts and the efforts of the Democratic Party.
Do you expect that Trump one day would stand for trial on charges of inciting violence?
Okay, can you elaborate more?
Yes, because there was condemnations accusing Donald Trump of asking people to go and cause violence or aggression at the Senate. Do you think that he will be tried for that?
No, I don't think. There is no any evidence said that he will do so.
Yes.
So I don't
okay. Also, speaking about another point that has caused some controversy is the suspension of the social media accounts of Donald Trump. How do you see this? Because some are deem this as an impeachment or as something that is against democracy.
Okay. Of course, the U.S. image of democracy is affected by what Donald Trump tweet on Twitter. And it is, of course, on the world stage, the U.S. is in a bad situation, and it needs to rebranding itself again to be able to improve its image on the world stage.
Yeah, I was also asking you to elaborate on how can they get out of this critical situation.
Okay. It is based on Joe Biden. As I told you before, Joe Biden must have a balance between first stop the divisions in the American society. He should implement effective policies and actions to stop violence and acts of violence, but at the same time he must save democracy in United States, as his policies or actions to end violence could discredit the U.S. image of democracy. So the balance here is the most important thing, to balance between stopping this violence and at the same time save democracy.
Yes. Also, another thing, Irene, many files, pending files, are left by Trump to Joe Biden. Just to name a few, of course, the Chinese file, the Iranian uranium enrichment file, also the crises of the Middle East, and also the critical situation with North Korea, and also with Russia as well, sensitive. How do you see all that?
It is shown from Joe Biden's speeches that he will be more softer with China to solve the conflict between U.S. and China that Trump caused, and he will be adopting a softer approach also with Iran and return the nuclear program with it. But he will be harder more on North Korea and adopt and on the Russia side, he will adopt a mixture approach between soft and hard power. According to his speeches, the Middle East, the most important file for Joe Biden in the Middle East is Iran, and the conflict and the U.S. the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He will continue to support and aim Israel, but at the same time he will improve the United States relation with Palestine in the form of direct and humanitarian assistance.
Irina, we're being joined also by Ambassador Mohammed Badruddin, former Assistant Foreign Minister, to tell us more about his insights. Ambassador, do you have my voice?
Hello, good evening.
A very good evening to you, Mr. Ambassador. Mr. Ambassador, if you can tell us, how do the Americans following closely on the events that are very swiftly unfolding in the United States are seeing it, and of course how they are following the different media channels? Your comment.
I didn't hear you well, actually. I'm sorry, I have some cold. But I can tell you now what we are seeing is a very difficult transitional period for the new administration. Not only because of the hardline position which has been taken by Trump administration and the President Trump himself, but also because normally in this transitional period, any administration used to ease, and they call it the lame duck, but this didn't happen this time. And President Trump continued most of since the election until now, taking a lot of measures which is going to complicate the situation for the new administration. I think President Biden will count more, of course, on the bureaucratic and institution traditions of the American government in order to return back to normal kind of policies for the American policies, which I don't think that he is going to go back to what President Obama used to do, because it's very difficult and nobody can say that in real politics now. We have to understand this situation change, but it's going to be difficult for him to adopt and to change the difficult measures which has been taken by the current administration, by Trump administration.
Also, another point, Mr. Ambassador, I would like to stress on, we had asked our guests, I would like to hear from you, of course, about the state of polarization that the United States is witnessing. And do you think that President-elect Joe Biden...
The state of what, I'm sorry?
The state of polarization.
Polarization, yeah.
Do you think that Joe Biden will have a way out from that?
I think it's going to be very difficult. We are watching now with a real case of polarization between the extreme left and the extreme right. And the bulk of the moderates and either in the Democratic or in the Republican Party is shrinking. So it's going to be very difficult for any president now in the current situation to change this difficulty. Taking into account that President Biden counted on the left to come to the office, and taking into account the his deputy, the new vice president, Kamala Harris. So I think the polarization is going to continue. We will need maybe another election. He is going to try, of course, and maybe he will succeed. I think he is a very reasonable politician, but I think maybe I'm wrong, but it's still early to judge. But I think we need another administration with counting more on the middle, on the modest people to try to eliminate a little bit this kind of polarization.
One last question, Mr. Ambassador. How do you think that President-elect Joe Biden will prioritize his first days in office?
I'm sorry?
How do you anticipate or foresee the priorities of President-elect Joe Biden?
I think the first thing is, he said the first session will be going back to the climate change agreement, which is very good. But I think he was going to give his priority to the issue of polarization, regardless if he will succeed or not. But the only thing that he mentioned it clearly, that he is going to take a decision to go back to the climate change agreement.
Mr. Ambassador, I really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. And back to you, Irene. I would like to know also from you, because there were some, let's say, information that might not be confirmed, that Donald Trump might be announcing war on Iran. How possible do you think that would happen?
I don't think he will likely do this, because he took the decision of a range of senior advisors, and they warned him that strike or war against Iran will be quickly broadened into a conflict. So they warned him. But if he do so, will be because two reasons. The first one, to raise his popularity in the context of his efforts to run against the next elections and to return to the White House, and to put an obstacle in the way of Joe Biden, because he's more open with Iran relations, and he will plan to return the nuclear program with it. So he will, if he do this, he will do this to put an obstacle in the way of Joe Biden.
Also from what you have said, picking on it, do you believe that Donald Trump, you might see him as a potential candidate once again in the U.S. elections?
Yes. More than 70 million people vote for him, and he represents a big part of American society. They are so attracted to his policies and personality, and we can show this through the demonstrations that happen at the Congress. He had a popularity, but not enough to win the elections.
Yes. About the inaugural session, do you think that it will flow, the flow will go smoothly, and that Donald Trump will attend and will concede to Biden, as we have seen with previous U.S. presidents, or do you think that something different will happen?
No American head of state has refused to transfer power at the terms, and so that is why this is unlikely to happen. But Trump words and actions raised fears among some observers that he might refuse to transfer power in a peaceful way. But there are protections in place that ensure the president must leave the office after his or her term end. But if these protections were to fail, the United States will face much bigger instability and the crisis, and there will be more clashes and divisions in the American society. So we cannot expect what will happen, because this never happened in the American history. But of course, if this happens, this will discredit the image of U.S. democracy on a world stage, because peaceful transfer of power is one of the main and core elements of a United States democracy.
I would like to know if you have any other remarks that you'd like to add.
Okay, no, thank you.
Thank you. And that was Irene Girgis Safwat, Assistant Researcher of American Affairs at the North African European North African Center, for Center for Research.
Yes.
We really appreciate your presence and your insight, and thank you so much for joining us on To The Point, and we look forward to have you in future episodes, inshallah.
It's my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. And dear viewers, by this we wrap up today's episode of To The Point. You were in the company of myself, Karim Gamaluddin, and till we meet again, this is goodbye.